Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanus, Talmudic sage. We gave some of the information about how he had a dispute with Rabbi Yeshua in the Sanhedrin about who decides the law, whether the law is decided from heaven or whether the law is decided here on earth by the Sanhedrin. Eventually Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, who is also known as Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanus, was excommunicated. Bear in mind that when a Jew is excommunicated, put in cherem and nidui, there's a fine shade of legal difference between the two, which I'm not aware of. But when a Jew is put in cherem, excommunicated, it doesn't mean he's not Jewish. There's nothing a Jew can do to not be Jewish. It's a fact of birth, and it stays with one forever. The Rabbi Eliezer was actually put in, the word for excommunicated is cherem. He was banned. He was forbidden to come within 2 meters of him. And at the end of his life, they came to release him from his writ of excommunication. This is the last will and testament of Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol. For any more information that you might want about what the Talmudic story is about the famous dispute about it's not in heaven, look at my Facebook teachings. My Besala 153 YouTube teachings on this YouTube station under the heading "It's Not in Heaven." This is the last will and testament of Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanus, which, when they came to visit him after they had released him from the cherem, from the excommunication, he gave over the following teachings mostly to his son before his passing. The book is called Orchos Chaiim. It is said when Rabbi Eliezer the Great, Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanus, became sick, the sages came to visit him. The sages of the Sanhedrin came to visit him. When he saw them, he said to them, I'd be astonished if you actually died natural deaths. They said to him, Master, why? And he said to them, it is because you didn't come to learn from me. You didn't come to serve me. Serving the sages and learning from the sages were part and parcel of the same thing. It wasn't just bringing them tea and sweeping their floor, but it was also it was sitting in the dust at their feet and learning their words and of the glorious and wonderful tradition that we are a part of. So, because you didn't do this. In other words, because you put me. Now, there's a question. I'm adding this parenthetically. He was put in. He wasn't allowed to come close to him. So why could he make such a statement? Was he asking them to break the law? We'll find answers to this question later on. Afterwards, Akiva, son of Yosef, the great Rabbi Akiva, came, and Rabbi Eliezer looked at him and said, "Why didn't you come and learn from me?" Rabbi Akiva said, "I was not at leisure to do so." He said to him, "Rabbi Akiva, I'd be astonished if you die a natural death." At that moment, Rabbi Akiva's bones trembled and his blood melted within him. He said to him, "My master, teach me." At that moment, Rabbi Eliezer taught Rabbi Akiva 300 laws, 300 laws about a leprous spot white as snow. Then he called to his son Horkanus. Rabbi Eliezer called to his son Horkanus, and he put him on his right side, and he cried. And he said, "My son, until now I've been wroth with you when I've taught you, and I didn't show you a pleasant face. This was only to subdue you to the fear and awe of God, your Maker, your owner. And now, my son, I'm going to the pleasantness of God and His majesty. Come and I'll teach you the paths of life." Rabbi Eliezer opened up and he said, "God, I've heard of your fame, of your renown. and I was filled with awe. So first, let's look a little bit at the commentary. This book was favored by the Radziner Rebbe, Rabbi Gershon Chenuch of Radzin, in the 19th century. This is the Ishbitz Radzin Institute, after all. And he was called into the courts. For some reason, he was delivered over to the Polish courts. He had his enemies, and Rabbi Gershon Chenuch of Radzin, when he went to the courts, he had to wait a long time. So for about 2 months, he was being called into questioning by the police, by the courts, and for reasons unknown to me. And for over these 2 months, with the 2 hour, 3 hours, 4 hours a day, he was waiting in the courthouses. He wrote this. I don't know if he sat there with a quill or with a pen, or however they would write back 100 years ago. I guess with a quill and ink. But the ballpoint pen was a 20th century invention. So apparently he had it all in his head, and then he would go home and write it down. So he was very taken with this last will and testament of Rabbi Eliezer, and the figure of Rabbi Eliezer is very is like a soul brother, if you will, of the Radziner Rebbe, the friends across the centuries. So the Radziner Rebbe asked the question, what does it mean? Where does Rabbi Eliezer get off saying, I don't think you'll die a natural death because you didn't serve me, learn from me? So the Radziner Rebbe is careful to point out that this is not something that he just made up. It wasn't something that just came into his head and he said. It was a received tradition. In the Gemara and Sukkah, it says that they said to Rabbi Eliezer, his fellow sages in the academy, said to him, all of your words are only things you've heard from tradition. And then he answered them, yes, I've never said anything that I did not receive from my masters. I didn't make anything up. He had a point of not making things up. Everything he said was a received tradition. And there's a story in Eruvin. It said there was one student, Rabbi Eliezer had one student who once taught Hallah before. Said to him, are you a prophet? He said, no, I'm not a prophet. I guess the student said to Rabbi Eliezer, what do you think, you're a prophet? He said, no, I'm not a prophet, and I'm not the son of a prophet. But this is the way I learned it from my master. What does it mean you didn't serve me? He didn't serve him because he had been cursed. He had been he had been banished. So there's a problem. On the one hand, they weren't allowed to come see him, and on the other hand, the point that by being banished, by banishing him, they were making it impossible to learn from him. And like it says in Pirkei Avot, if somebody doesn't study Torah, he receives the death penalty. Okay, it's speaking in a very high language. It's saying it's like it's a spiritual death. If somebody doesn't doesn't overcome obstacles in order to learn Torah, it's as if he might as well be killing himself in a spiritual sense. So sometimes to fulfill the law, maybe you're going to have to break the law.